Hi there. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just kind of wanted to soak in this moment of being at NACIS, one of my favorite places to be. Again, my name is Matthew Hampton. I've been making maps for a really long time, and I've seen a lot of things. I'm an embedded transportation planner in our transportation section at Oregon Metro. It's in the Planning, Development, and Research Division. My job is mainly to look for the future, but after 25 years, I've decided to look backwards a little bit and reflect a little bit on a journey I took that ended up being an experimental cartography contest. So how did I do this? You know, I never planned on doing this at all. It just sort of evolved. I got invited to speak at a JS class at University of Washington, co-taught by Sky Naslund and Mark Weber, who I got to know during graduate school way back when. Back at PSU, at the other PSU on the West Coast. But we talked on the phone a bit, and my thoughts started drifting back and reminiscing. And after a lot of thought, I started thinking about this East Asian concept of the wheel of time, the Kali Chakra, which is based on an understanding that there's this cycle of life and death that repeats over and over again. And a modern conceptual equivalent would be this thriller starring Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise called The Edge of Tomorrow, which is a modern metaphor of the same idea, and it's a little bit more exciting to watch than trying to learn Sanskrit. But if you have been making maps for a long time, you undoubtedly know some people who aren't around anymore. And a couple of the folks who I held in the highest esteem in this career was Mark Bosworth, and Mark Scott. Mark Bosworth was my mentor, and I first started at Metro. And Mark Scott was a larger-than-life, mischievous cartographic character who I met in graduate school and had a lot of fun with. And since they've both been gone, I've always wanted to personally do something publicly in their honor. So this has been circulating in my mind for a few years, along with a few other things I'm going to introduce. But you know, sometimes you meet some people who are really, really important in your life, and I just wanted to honor them today. You can check out the QR codes if you want to learn a little bit more about them. But switching gears a little bit, has anyone heard of this concept of othering and belonging? There's an Othering and Belonging Institute down in California, and I recently heard about it through a work training that I thought it was really intriguing. It's free to join. There's a QR code if you want to learn some more information about that. But just sort of some questions. Who started their GIS career through this gateway drug of GIS? A few of us. And who in your class maybe felt a little bit different in your classroom than some of the other people, like you wanted to make things easier to understand by modifying color, texture, pattern, visual hierarchy, rather than focusing on GIS geoprocessing scripts, right? And so you know, NACIS is a great place for belonging for cartographers and cartography, and I kind of wanted to help push that forward a little bit. And I think one of my first feelings of belonging as a cartographer was being recognized, having one of my maps recognized in a contest. It was just an honorable mention, but it really made me feel good. And knowing there are undiscovered cartographers out there just kind of made me excited to try and pull this out and give them an opportunity to show themselves, as well as for seasoned cartographers to experiment and try a couple other things. So the rules for this contest, well, you know, I don't really like rules so much, so these were sort of kept to a minimum and generalized and turned into more guidelines based on principles of belonging and inclusivity at the forefront to try and remove some of the othering that happens around here by, you know, you have to use this piece of software to do this map or anything, and reducing the barriers and limitations by relaxing that criteria for entry felt really inclusive and felt positive. You know, this is about creating community and less about throwing shade and one-upsmanship, while still allowing for the opportunity for folks to let their light shine and throw their hat in the ring for recognition. And there was a cash incentive that I threw in just for fun. I had to look around at my desk to find some other things that might be fun. But the process evolved and still is, and it sort of started me by just sharing this rough idea with Mark Weber, and he didn't think the idea sucked really bad, and so I was like, okay. And so I leveraged the honorarium for the speaking as a prize, and I was a little nervous, but I wanted, you know, I didn't want this money to go anywhere. I wanted to go back into cartography and to help promote the guild. And so all these ideas sort of coalesced into this single beam of light, and there I was. I threw it out there, and then Again, I was a little nervous, but I tentatively got a hold of some other community college teachers around the Portland area, as well as Portland State University. I didn't want it to get too big, just because I was just kind of winging it and just kind of going with the flow. But the general idea was to create a place for student participation and cartographic experimentation. But again, there wasn't a whole lot of planning. The timeline was really tight. But I figured the end of the school year might provide an opportunity for students to have a finished piece of work that they could share. And so the judging was another outlet to try and create community built from the fact that it's fun for cartographers to look at maps and talk about them. Proof last night at the map gallery. And so I put together a panel of judges from local contacts. The judging criteria was defined pretty wide open. Everyone has a different opinion of how to judge, but as long as they kept that consistent across all the maps, everything was fine. So I put together a judging packet and electronically distributed this in PDF format that included the map and the author's description of the map. And each judge was asked to pick just their top two, just to make it easier and more straightforward to determine the winners. Other things could get more complicated. And so everyone had a lot of flexibility with how they judged, but it worked out really well. So here are the entrants. One entrance, Liz Cox, a Mount Hood quad, a blender rendition of one of my favorite clean quads of Mount Hood. Jupira de Praia, Willamette Ways, a creative folk art map. Patrick Chumley, Crater Lake National Park, historical bleak render. Natalie Ramsland, Hike Like a Pika, Crater Lake map optimized for the pika. Gabriel Rousseau, Sparks Lake, a LiDAR-derived terrestrial bathymetric fusion. Peter Sampson's A Seasonal Palette, the Hood River Valley, using lighting and land cover. And Sean Stanton's Aerial Photos to Terrain, which was an online one. And the winner was Jupira de Praia for Willamette Ways. And she showed up yesterday. It was her first time to NACIS yesterday, which was really cool. The winner wisely chose the $100 check, and so I got to print out a large check. And if you've ever given someone a large check, it was one of my best days ever. We just met in a local coffee shop, and it worked out really well. So. Pitfalls, I guess the only pitfall was just time. It was just trying to get things organized and get everyone together for a time. But it was a ton of fun. Huge thanks to Tanya Haddad and the other judges, David Banis, Lauren McKinney-Wise, Jake Lovell, Erica McCormick, Tracy Lamb, Julia Reisman, and Rafa Gutierrez. So thank you. That's what I got. Does anyone have any questions?
My phone over here. Does anyone have any questions? I'm not on the Slack channel. Tom?
How many people entered the contest?
There were 7 entrants, so it's not that many. Yeah, it was relatively small. But I do have one more thing. I've got I've been around for a long time, and I'm getting too tired and old to do some of this stuff. There's one thing I haven't done yet, and I want some of you to help me find this document. It's somewhere in the Library of Archives. It's Eglef Stein's Manual of Methods. And so I've got a $50 cash reward if anyone is ever able to find this Manual of Methods. Eglef Stein was a 19th century cartographer who I believe is proof of time travel, because not only were his maps amazing, they couldn't reproduce them in New York. The engravers couldn't. And so do you know what he did? He invented the halftone press.
What?
Yep. Anyway, thank you.